The International Labour Organization reports that more than 40 million people around the world are victims of modern-day slavery, and that can be forced labor, debt bondage, forced marriage, or human trafficking. And what's equally, if not more, alarming is that more than 150 million children are child laborers. Here in Jamaica, the government has been making significant strides in addressing all forms of modern-day slavery. Earlier this year, a survivor's handbook was launched to assist victims of human trafficking. You too can help in the state's fight. Report all forms of child abuse to the CPFSA, and if you suspect an adult is in harm's way, speak out by contacting the police. That's the only way we'll be able to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. Your Jamaica Magazine program continues with these useful tips.
Violence against women and girls is a human problem, not just a woman's problem. It's a problem for men too. Gender violence takes many forms, including sexual assault, domestic violence, relationship abuse, sexual harassment, and sexual abuse of children. The magnitude of ongoing violence against women and children in our country is cause for alarm. We can end the violence. It requires all of us to end the violence. I call on all our men and women in Jamaica to take a stand. And men, especially, must get involved in this movement to create a better world for their daughters, their mothers, their sisters, their aunts, their uncles, their fathers, their sons, and for themselves. Let's protect and reassure. Let's unite to end gender violence.
Good day, I'm Lorraine Mendez, and this is your JIS News for Monday, December 2. Business owners who have paid the now abolished minimum business tax for this year are entitled to a refund. This was disclosed on Friday by Leader of Government Business in the Upper House, Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith. She was piloting the bill entitled An Act to Repeal the Minimum Business Tax Act 2019, which gives effect to the elimination and refund of the tax. It removes the minimum business tax that was implemented in April 2014, which required specified persons operating a business to pay the tax totaling $60,000 annually in 2 installments. This tax refund entitlement is outlined in Clause 3 of the bill, which makes a provision for taxpayers who settled their minimum business tax during the first 3 months of this calendar year to receive a refund once they have no arrears.
I must emphasize that this measure, among other revenue measures introduced, are geared at stimulating business activity and incentivizing formalization, because that allows and enables growth, Mr. President.
Minister Johnson-Smith says the removal of the tax and its associated filing requirements will reduce the tax burden on micro and small businesses. She says it will also allow the country to improve on its Doing Business World Bank ranking, particularly in the ease of paying taxes category. The expected revenue lost to government from the abolition of the minimum business tax is $1.093 billion. The police's investigative capabilities have been strengthened with the expansion of the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine in Kingston. A 2-story annex with top-of-the-line equipment has been built at the Institute at a cost of $300 million. Following a tour of the building recently, National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang said the facility would take Jamaica's policing into the 21st century.
The work of building out the Institute of Forensic Science and Legal Medicine ranks highly among the strategic priorities that the government has embarked on in order to retool and adequately recruit the Jamaica Constabulary force to deal with the kind of criminals we have today.
Dr. Chang said further expansion of the Institute's capabilities would enable it to meet the requirements for international accreditation.
So we can in fact do evidence that is be used in any courts within the region. And that's a credit to our country, and maybe the only one of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean, I'm sure.
2 state-run shelters for victims of gender-based violence are to be established by the government. These are in addition to a national shelter that's already operational. Gender Minister Olivia Grange says purchasing of the 2 properties is being finalized.
So we will have shelter in the east, a shelter in the west, and a shelter mid-island. So wherever the need, there is the need, we will be able to provide support for women who are in abusive situations.
Minister Grange was speaking at the Stand Up Talk Up public forum on Friday. She says the shelters, which will become operationalized next year, will provide refuge for women and children from real and pending danger. They will also provide a suitable way out for victims through counseling and other types of intervention. In the meantime, the minister is urging private and public partnership as a means of protecting the human rights and well-being of Jamaicans.
I'm asking our multilateral partners, civil society organizations, non-government organizations, and members of the private sector to join us in this carefully executed but anticipated and intentional decision to respond to a complex social, economic, and cultural problem in an ongoing and holistic way.
The Jamaica Physiotherapy Association has received 46 computer tablets, which will assist with the delivery of physiotherapy services in health facilities island-wide. The tablets, which were handed over on Friday, are valued at over $1 million. They were bought with funding provided by eLearning Jamaica and will be distributed to 20 public hospitals. Technology Minister Favour Williams says the devices will greatly enhance the level of patient care and service delivery being offered by physiotherapists.
More and more health practitioners are utilizing smart devices, such as tablets, to aid in patient care and diagnosis, as it offers greater access to records and information in real time. Over the years, technology has led to significant improvement in the delivery of health care.
The Electoral Office of Jamaica, EOJ, says it has removed the names of 71,529 dead electors from the voters list published on November 30. This represents the largest number of electors removed from the voters list in recent times. The significant increase is attributed to the dead elector removal exercise, which entered the verification of information phase in March this year. Director of Elections Glasspool Brown says he's pleased with the progress of the project, adding that the plan now is to get it completed and ensure the office continuously improves on the number of dead electors identified and removed each year. In the meantime, 24,016 persons were also added to the November 30 voters list, bringing the total number of registered voters to 1,897,146. Voter ID cards for these electors added to the November 30 list are scheduled to become available by mid-December and should be collected at the EOJ office in the constituency where each individual lives. Meanwhile, the EOJ continues the renewal exercise for electors with ID cards that were issued in 2015 or before. Persons must visit an EOJ constituency office or ID card renewal center. The validity of current voter ID cards has been extended until 2020. And finally, 48 young people are now proud recipients of the Prime Minister's Youth Award for Excellence. The young men and women were recognized for their outstanding contributions to nationhood during a ceremony held on the lawns of Jamaica House on Saturday. The Prime Minister's Youth Awards for Excellence also served as the culminating event for Youth Month in November. Of the 48 awardees, 24 were given bursaries worth $100,000 from Jamaica National and Sagicor. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he's encouraged by the youth awardees' passion, dedication, and commitment for excellence.
All areas, all categories are contributing to the development of our society. We believe it is imperative that we celebrate your positive energy and achievements. What we want to do today is to focus and accentuate the positive, because you have been doing great things. You have been achieving significant things for this country.
And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Lorraine Mendez. Thanks for watching.
Mosquitoes will breed in containers that hold water. Tightly cover water storage containers such as drums, buckets, and tanks, or cover the water surface with cooking oil. Punch holes in all tins, plastic containers, and boxes to prevent the collection of water before disposal. Cover old tires or fill with dirt. Scrub all vases once per week to remove mosquito eggs and dispose of garbage by placing in plastic bags. Do your part to prevent mosquito breeding. A message from the Ministry of Health.
Here are some hard truths. 1 in 4 victims of modern slavery are children. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by forced labor, accounting for 99% of victims in the commercial sex industry. Help us protect our people by looking out for these warning signs.
Is a serious matter. It is perhaps a larger problem than many people understand, and health plays an important role because oftentimes these persons may present at health facilities because of any crisis that may arise, any health crisis that may arise while they are here in Jamaica or while they are held in these kinds of circumstances. And so it's very important that our healthcare workers engage in primary care, emergency care, mental health, pediatrics, and so on, are positioned to identify such persons. The development of the management of suspected victims of trafficking in persons protocol for health workers is therefore a step in the right direction, which is designed to be used as a guide and contains pertinent information concerning the identification and protection of victims. And it provides guidelines relating to the stabilization of patients, importance of confidentiality, requisite documentation, consent, and referral of suspected victims. So I want to congratulate the Task Force Against Trafficking in Jamaica for the completion of this document, and of course to recognize the work and the support of the Ministry of Justice and the Ministry of National Security in this important document. And that as many as 88% of sex trafficking victims may end up at our health institutions. But I understand that only a small percentage of our healthcare workers are confident and have some degree of knowledge with respect to identifying a trafficked person. So we need to look at how we get this training done. We have to break this cycle of violence. Clearly the health sector has a very important role to play in this regard. Training has been done in the past, but we do have turnover of staff. And so it's very useful that there is the training plan, which would include training of some 500 health workers starting in 2018. And the training will include a wide cross-section of healthcare workers, both in the public and the private health sectors.
Be an active participant in your child's life. Spend time with your child. No phones, no television, no distractions. Just the two of you. Get to know your child through play. Why not go to the park and get on the monkey bars? Sharing a meal can also be a time of bonding. If your child's in school, be involved in school activities. Speak with your child's teacher. Follow up on their progress in school and see how you can help. Assist them with homework. Attend parent-teacher meetings and support school fundraising events. Remember, your child's future is in your hands. Safeguard it.
So glad you are a child of mine.
Even though Parent Month ended just 2 days ago, these tips for moms and dads of teen-aged children are always timely.
teenagers, it's a little harder in some ways, and in other ways it's a little easier because they do understand the difference between right and wrong. It's clearer what are some of the things that they love, and you can remove those things. But one of the things that's really important with teenagers is really to take the time to make sure that they understand that their feelings and their opinions are valued. So in the moment, yes, I'm removing these things, but I'm also having a conversation with you about why you won't have access to these things for a particular period, right? We're explaining why this thing might be dangerous to you, whether or not you agree with it. I am the parent, right? This is where I am coming from. It really requires a conversation, because ultimately what you want to teach them to do, is to reason and to think, right? You don't want to just be disciplining and you're not helping them to think through it and to use proper judgment and reasoning skills. And so those are some of the things that you can try.
If the child becomes stubborn, the child is more obstinate, and the child has a fixed mindset, if you will, that this is what he or she is going to continue to do, then you might need professional help. You might need to call the commission, or you might need to call a social worker or a guidance counselor to help for you, because sometimes parents don't have the language either to even explain why this behavior is wrong. And that causes friction. Once the friction starts, then we recommend that you get a third party involved, because it could become worse.
I say be careful what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to my sister. She could be the next Prime Minister.
Sexual abuse is always a very difficult thing to confront, particularly when the alleged victim is a child. Parents, if it is that you suspect that your child has been sexually abused or is in a vulnerable set of circumstances where an abuse may occur, we encourage you to have dialogue with your child. Take the child to the pediatrician who normally attends to the child. If there is no such pediatrician, take your child to the clinic, to the hospital, to some medical practitioner who can do an assessment for you. It's very important as well that we don't just look at the physical side, but we also seek to find the kind of psychosocial support that a child may need. Does the child need a session with a counselor? Does the child need to speak with a pastor who is used to dealing with these issues? Does the child need to get that ongoing psychological support to assist with the healing process, and also to assist the child in becoming strong enough, as it were, to deal with the various processes that will follow once it is that you suspect an abuse has occurred? If it is that the child actually discloses, when you engage the child in discussion, that yes, mommy and daddy, I was abused, we encourage you to entertain the child, to listen to what the child has to say to you, and to take it very seriously. So we really urge you to have those discussions and to seek guidance in terms of, do I speak to the police about this, which we always say you have to, because once a child has been sexually abused, it's a criminal matter, and it means that once at all possible, the child should be assisted to go through the processes so that the perpetrator can in fact be held accountable. Support your child and let them understand in very clear terms that they are not the cause or the reason for this abuse having been perpetrated. But the most important element is to support them, get them access to the services that they need, and give them a chance to have you give them that listening ear. For these tips, and of course any other information that deals with children, that is anyone under 18 years, please feel free to contact the Office of the Children's Advocate. We're at 72 Harbour Street, downtown Kingston, and our numbers are 948-1134, or website www.oca.gov.jm. Thank you.
Watch what you teach your little children. Make sure I know something to hurt them. Mind what you saying to my sister, cause she could be the next Prime Minister.
It's never too late to start a healthy journey, and that first step begins with you paying close attention to your body. Hear more from cancer survivor Deidre Ashman.
She had her first child at 16. and the second just past the age of 19. Her life was going well until, at age 26, she started to experience excruciating pain with abnormally heavy periods. She dismissed it. Maybe it's stress, a miscalculation of the period start date, until one night, the pain became too unbearable to ignore.
When I went to the doctor, she said, do a pap smear. When I did the pap smear, 3 weeks after, she called me and said, what they see, the pap smear don't come back normal. I have to go and do a colposcopy.
Her doctor advised her to see a gynecologist. At the gynecologist, a test was done and an emergency colposcopy ordered.
A colposcopy is the insertion inside of you with a camera and all the tests to see what's happening. And when they did the biopsy and everything and it come back, I was literally at a stage 3 cervical cancer. At 26 with 2 children and at a stage 3 cancer, all you hear about cancer is death.
Determined to fight, she weighed her options. Her treatment of choice was radiation and chemotherapy at the Kingston Public Hospital.
Radiation burns your body. Can you imagine you cannot have a shower for at least 3 to 4 months. You just have to pat and do everything. You cannot eat normal food because if you do, you're going to have constant diarrhea or vomiting because your system starts to change. But thank God for KPH, there were some good doctors there. Very good doctors who encouraged me, who loved me through this, as I was one of the youngest young girl at KPH at that time, going through this and doing this treatment. And I said, okay, I'm going to do it. And I went through it. I prayed, thank God. He had a plan for me and I'm here today. And I am here with this team saying taking responsibility. It's not the government to take responsibility for you. I'm going to encourage parents to encourage your children, to take care of them, to protect them from this act before it's too late. Some of us don't show signs. But look at me today. Thanks to KPH, thanks to the good doctors, thanks that at 26 I didn't have any money. So what would I do? Don't I would I die? And I hear people talk about the system. No. They are there to help us. I pay a little money. That's why I'm standing here today with the grace of God. Amen. Right? So go to the clinics and go with a good attitude and talk to your nurse and your doctor and you will see how it works out. So remember, take responsibility for who? You and your... Okay.
For more information on cervical cancer caused by the human papillomavirus, call 888-1-LOVE. That's 888-663-5683. You may also email hpvinfo@moh.gov.jm. Garbage collection, maintenance of public sanitary conveniences, upkeep of cemeteries, provision of water shops, road improvement, street lights, poor relief programs, community beautification. All these services are funded by you. Yes, they are, when you pay your property tax. Pay your annual property tax to make Jamaica the place of choice for all.
Is unhealthy for productivity in the workplace. You guys can't continue like this. And she come in the morning and
I'm trying to show her and she just acts like idiot.
Alright, so here what? I have a video from the Dispute Resolution Foundation that I think you guys need to watch. Come with me.
conflict is at its most fundamental, a disagreement. Workplace conflict has a number of significant impacts. There's a cost to conflict at the workplace. So someone seeing a dispute between two employees or between employees and the employer being played out in public might be inconvenienced by what is happening, but they're unaware of what's the cost. There are all kinds of costs, from personal costs, health costs, reputational costs, to financial costs. So conflict can impact somebody at the workplace. It can impact the production and productivity of the business. If you think of it, any workplace could find that between a supervisor or just between two employees, there could be an unresolved conflict, and it affects how they work. So if we have to work in a way that says your work is affecting mine and vice versa, and we're not getting along, then over time what will happen is that we tend not to be very productive because we're not communicating with each other, we're not responding, we're not engaged. So it affects the organization's relationship internally, it affects the dynamics of that, it affects productivity, it affects communication, it affects a number of things. So simple things like management decisions may be impacted by conflict at the workplace.
Mediation is very, very important in order to solve conflicts like these and to ensure that we have productivity.
Conflict resolution is a very broad term used to describe different approaches to try and manage conflict when conflict occurs. So mediation is just one of those processes, a very structured process in which a neutral third party who is trained helps disputing parties to come to a resolution of their dispute. Now, at the workplace, that will be helping them to negotiate. So they may be unable to negotiate by themselves, so they may get somebody who is external to each of them to help them to resolve that dispute, and that person would play the role of a mediator.
So guys, this is where I come in, to sit with you both and to discuss the issue further. But before we get to the meat of the matter, there is just one more point to note.
Now, in order to do that, the mediator has to have some very effective communication skills. So how does the mediator communicate? And communicate in a way that includes both verbal and non-verbal, but at the same time interpreting what is it that the verbal and non-verbal cues that are coming from the parties. What are those cues saying? So the mediator has to be very effective at communication. Now, helping the parties to communicate may be a part of the communication, the larger communication skills of the mediator. However, at a particular point in time, mediator has to help the parties to negotiate. So the mediator has to be au fait with what negotiation is about, how are the parties negotiating, and help them to be able to negotiate in a way that settles the dispute that they have.
Alright, so as you guys can see, conflict, it's nothing new. Today was probably the first for you guys, and it maybe won't be the last. But based on the video that you've just seen, you can now tell the true effect of what conflict can do within the organization. So you see, it's very important for you to practice mediation and proper conflict resolutions. Now, having seen and heard all of that, what really happened today?
And this is where we wrap things up, but only for today. If you want more programs of this nature, visit gis.gov.jm, join us on all social media platforms, or download our mobile app. You may also send your questions, queries, or your general remarks to Jamaica Magazine at gis.gov.jm. Join us again tomorrow right here on this station for another informative show. Until then, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.